Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. If you've watched my videos before, you will know that I sometimes get predictions wrong, as we all do. Because if we were all Nostradamus, we'd all be living in mansions and driving Bentleys, and I'm certainly not. But this is one that I got right, absolutely on the money. It was a 12-round decision for Anthony Joshua. I think I said it would be a sort of 116, 112 fight. In fact, I scored it 117, 111 to Joshua, which was the same as two of the judges. I think now another guy had it 118, 112, so 111, something like that. I don't know what it was. Anyway, the point is Joshua clearly won. But what did I base that 12-round points prediction on? Well, it seemed to me kind of ridiculous that people were saying Joshua was going to smash through Jermaine Franklin, because Franklin has proved that he has got a good chin, a good engine, and he's slick. He's a smaller heavyweight, 6'2", I mean smaller in dimensions, still weighs a bit, lost a lot of weight, down to I think 238 when he was in the 250s against Dillian Whyte. I thought he gave Whyte all he could handle, actually shook Whyte. He's got those fast hands, very slick with very quick hands. And so if you put those together, good engine, quick hands, smaller guy, so AJ was punching down. I thought AJ would find it difficult, especially coming off the back-to-back defeats against Usyk, to use the power, to utilise the power. And sure enough, he wasn't able to really catch Franklin cleanly, although he did catch him with individual punches and some very, very good uppercuts in the second half of the fight. But the first half of the fight, he came out, Derek James is in his corner for the first time. He did exactly what I thought he would, which is stay behind the jab, ease your way into the fight, don't get cavalier, box nicely, nice with a nice conservative rhythm. He controlled the range very well. Anthony Joshua has very underrated boxing skills. He's got a very good jab and he uses his feet very well. And against a smaller guy with quick hands, you want to keep him on the end of the jab. You don't want him up close and personal, because if you know, Franklin, I think, in one of the later rounds really shook Whyte. And it wasn't so much the power of the punch, because Franklin doesn't have a great deal of individual punch power, but he has quick hands, and the punches that hurt you are the ones you don't see coming. And there were times when Franklin did catch AJ. But clearly this was going to be a grueling, long fight. And Joshua in the second round already had a bloodied nose. He won the opening 2 rounds as far as I could. Well, maybe the first one could have gone either way. I thought Joshua won it, but there were a couple of swing rounds maybe. But Joshua was able to keep him on the end of the jab. However, Franklin himself it was a battle of jabs early on, and Franklin did land enough to bloody AJ's nose. The fight moved on again with AJ still boxing in there's the old saying, you win today, look impressive tomorrow. I think after those back-to-back defeats, Joshua needed a win under his belt against a good class guy, and Franklin can fight. Franklin is a tough man with a very good jaw. And Franklin, I didn't give him many rounds, but he was competitive. He was making AJ think, making him work. Franklin made himself smaller than he was, so he was a difficult target to hit cleanly. He began to sort of jump in the middle rounds a little bit more when he realised he was losing the rounds. And I think he and his corner were relying on AJ getting a bit tired. Well, people talk about AJ's stamina and his chin, and he did take some 1 or 2 flush punches from Franklin. He took them well. But if you box at the pace that suits you, it doesn't matter whether you don't really have to have a great engine. It's when you're forced to fight at a pace you don't like, that's when the gas tanks come in. You need to drag yourself through those later rounds. And as the fight progressed, there's no doubt that both fighters were feeling the heat. They were feeling the pace. AJ in the second half of the fight started to utilise the uppercut a lot more and land a lot more straight punches, straight right hands. His feet slowed down, understandably, and he was kind of engaging a bit more, but he was definitely not averse to grabbing hold of Franklin and leaning on him. And for a man who's 20 pounds, heavier than the opponent, and has got bigger dimensions, longer reach, is taller, 4 inches taller. Who's going to come out? Who's going to have more energy sapped? It's going to be the smaller guy, because you're leaning on him and you're sapping his energy. And in fact, Marcus McDonald was the referee. He did stop the fight in, was it 9th round, 10th round maybe, and spoke to them both, stop wrestling, stop holding. Franklin was defiant to the end, talking to AJ. If he got hit cleanly, he'd mug at him as if to say, come on, I took that, that's nothing. And he was competitive. And I think I gave him 3 rounds. I can't remember which one, possibly the first. Was it the first? I can't remember offhand. I know I definitely gave him one of the later rounds because he was able to put it on AJ a bit. And AJ started to look. In fact, there was a round where they were both hurt. I think it was the 10th or the 11th. And I think AJ was the one who was hurt first. And then he came back immediately with a 2-punch combination and shook Franklin. And then they just, fell into each other. And when they were separated, neither of them looked particularly steady. I think fatigue was setting in. But AJ weathered that particular storm, so did Franklin. I suppose you could say the same about both of them. They were both, in the middle of the furnace. And the fight ended with, I think the last round was one I gave Franklin. But when it ended, AJ clearly wasn't happy with Franklin's use of the head, because Franklin was, as a smaller man, getting in close and sticking the nut in a bit. Franklin had a swelling under one of his eyes, which I think was probably the result of the jab. But AJ weren't happy with the headwork from Franklin. And in fact, when the bell went, AJ went to... It looked like he was going to embrace Franklin. Instead, he stuck his head underneath him and was almost like saying, well, you want a bit of headwork? I'll give you some headwork. And there was a little bit of a melee. The corner got involved and stewards jumped in and it all settled down. And I think Joshua shook Franklin's hand, shook his trainer's hand. After the fight, Joshua was interviewed. Standard stuff. Thanks to everyone for coming. It was a grueling, tough fight, and AJ's white shorts by the end of it were pink because of the blood, and he looked. I think he had blood coming out of his mouth as well as his nose. So, but maybe he had a slight cut in the mouth. I don't know. But Franklin's face, it's kind of not really beaten up badly, but he did have that swelling and maybe an abrasion underneath one of the eyes. I mean, he's a tough guy, Franklin. 2 fights in a row, he's come to England and fought 2 of our best heavyweights and been given nothing. And he lost. You could make a case of him winning the Dillian fight. I thought Dillian edged it, but Franklin gave him a good fight. This fight, it was Joshua all the way for me, even though the rounds were competitive. And Joshua, he said to the crowd, who do you want next? And they said, Fury. Good luck with that. I don't think that's going to happen, but Dillian Whyte was ringside. He was doing some of the interviews, some of the colour commentary for DAZN, and he might well be next. Eddie Hearn also mentioned Deontay Wilder. I don't know, I'd go with Whyte first of all. I think Whyte would be a good second step for this relationship, this professional relationship between Joshua and Derek James. If he can knock out Whyte again, or even just beat him on points, that pushes Whyte to one side and it frees up the highway, if you like, for maybe Fury, but Wilder possibly. I don't know, Joe Joyce maybe. I mean, anyone who's second, third time. I mean, it doesn't, if Joshua can keep winning, can keep momentum, can keep learning, because he's not a young man anymore. He's in his early 30s, not old for a heavyweight, but if he can keep working with Derek James, hone his style, sharpen up the tools in his box, and he can still make a splash. I mean, I'm not someone who, as I've said many times before, I don't care about defeats if you learn from them. And AJ has never ducked anyone. He fights the best, and he's lost a few times. And losing twice on points to Alexander Usyk, to me, isn't a great tragedy. It proves Usyk's the better fighter, but so is everyone else when it comes to Usyk. He probably is the best. Fury's the only one who can dispute that, and he didn't want the fight. So Joshua has plenty to do. There's plenty of options out there. He'll carry on. What did you think of the fight? What did you think of Joshua? It wasn't an enthralling fight. Well, it wasn't an exciting fight, really. There were little moments, little individual rounds that were quite exciting, but there was a lot of holding, a lot of sort of, grueling drudgery of it. And it wasn't explosive, and Joshua didn't get the knockout, but I didn't expect him to. Honestly, didn't. And I think this is, for the first, coming back off those 2 defeats, for the first time with Derek James, this is a good learning curve, good performance by Joshua overall. Plenty to work on, and I would say Dillian Whyte next. But what do you think? Leave your comments below. Always interested in reading them. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit the like button. We want to build the channel up, and I'd appreciate your support. So, yeah, we'll speak again soon. Again, comments below, and I'll answer them. And take care of yourselves. Bye for now.